Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's External Affairs Minister calls for macro business strategy at Raisina Dialogue, likens tariff deployment to weaponization. Vladimir Putin agrees to 30-day halt on energy facility strikes in call with Trump, but no full ceasefire. Marco Rubio to lead Ukraine ceasefire talks with Russia in Jeddah. And world celebrates the return of Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore. Earth missed you, says Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said tariffs and sanctions are being weaponized and countries use them. He was speaking at the 10th edition of Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi. Dr. Jaishankar, along with other speakers, shared his thoughts on the topic: commissars and capitalists, politics, business and new world order. The panel explored how political decisions are shaping businesses and are being implicated by them. Dr. Jaishankar discussed the ways of how business and geopolitical imperatives are reshaping global trade, finance and digital landscapes.
There are different ways of dealing with weaponization. One is to stay on the right side of the weapon. You don't get hit. The world today makes business decisions, factoring in national security. In the digital era, I think it's not just about cost, it is about comfort, it is about trust. We are involved right now in 3 big trade negotiations with the EU, with the UK, and now with the United States. These are our growth markets. These are our technology partners. I think there are non-economic factors which I think increasingly influence business decisions.
And over 3,500 participants from about 125 countries have joined the dialogue in person. In various sessions, the participants are discussing the state of the world and explore opportunities for cooperation on a wide range of contemporary matters. And in today's session of Destiny or Destination, Culture, Connectivity and Tourism, India G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant highlighted that India plays a significant role in job creation and possesses immense potential that is unmatched by any other country.
Very, very big driver of job creation. It has a huge multiplier impact in terms of both hard infrastructure, in terms of soft infrastructure. But the fact is that the wealth of heritage, the wealth of the tourism assets which India has, no other country in the world has, and that we need to utilize to its full potential in the days to come. And that can be a very big driver of both growth and job creation for it.
And India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margareta, today delivered a keynote address at the 10th CII India LSC conclave in the national capital. The minister highlighted India's willingness to pursue a just and inclusive world order by forging strong partnerships, especially with the Latin American and Caribbean countries.
Also did leading up to the G20 is bringing people of the world together and make their voice heard on the voice of Global South. India is Global South. You are all Global South. And this combined voice was brought into the agenda of G20, which stands for over 80% of global trade and finances. Friends, presently, bilateral trade between India and LAC region is less than $50 billion. In the last conclave, our External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, had given ourselves a target of $100 billion bilateral trade by 27-28.
At the Raisina Dialogue 2025, India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Alin Chauhan, addressed the evolving landscape of hybrid warfare and the critical challenges it presents. He noted that India has been facing asymmetric threats, and it is called the subconventional kind of conflict in India.
India has been facing this asymmetric threat, or what you call as this kind of a threat. We have called it always subconventional kind of a conflict. We invented this particular term much before West invented terms like global war on terror or asymmetric warfare or fourth generation warfare or now hyper conflicts. The biggest lesson is that there is no substitute for boots on grounds. Technology can only be an enabler, but it cannot replace people. I think that's very important. Second important lesson is about shaping of the combat zone, actually. In conventional conflicts, you shape the battlefield with fire, actually. Over here, we are looking at shaping of the mindscape, not the landscape. So the battle of the minds becomes important as far as hybrid warfare is concerned. The third important lesson is about intelligence. Intelligence is important, both human as well as technical intelligence.
And President Donald Trump spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin about ending the conflict in Ukraine. The White House said they began laying the groundwork for a ceasefire that included an agreement to stop attacking energy targets, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky later signaled a willingness to discuss next steps with Trump. As more.
US and Russia will engage in talks on a ceasefire in Russia-Ukraine conflict on Sunday in the Saudi Arabian city of Jeddah. This was revealed by US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff. In an interview with a TV news channel, Witkoff said that the US delegation in Saudi Arabia would be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Earlier, in a 90-minute call with the US President Donald Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to halt attacks on energy infrastructure targets in Ukraine for 30 days. But Putin did not accept a broader ceasefire proposal that Ukraine is ready to implement. Putin said a comprehensive truce could only work if foreign military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine came to an end. Sanctions are not temporary or isolated measures. It's a mechanism of systematic, strategic pressure on our country. Regardless of how the situation develops or what the system of international relations looks like, our competitors will always strive to contain our nation and weaken its economic and technological capabilities. In an interview after the talk, Trump said that he didn't discuss Western aid to Ukraine during a call.
Actually, we didn't talk about aid at all. We talked about a lot of things, but aid was never discussed. We're going to be friendly with both. I think we're going to be friendly with both. China needs us in terms of trade very badly, but we have to straighten out the deficit. We have now more than $1 trillion deficit with China. It's not even believable. And we're going to be doing something about that. And with Russia, they would like to have some of our economic power.
Ukraine reported a barrage of strikes on civilian infrastructure hours after Moscow agreed only to pause attacks on the energy grid.
This is not a game where Putin alone dictates the rules. I think that the assistance will continue. We have assistance from both the United States of America and our European allies. We are in constant contact. I am confident that there will be no betrayal from our partners and the assistance will continue.
Another takeaway from the phone call was the agreement for prisoner swap. Russia and Ukraine will exchange 175 prisoners each on Wednesday. The hopes of any positive move towards permanent cessation will depend on the outcome of talks in Jeddah. Anamika Pandey's report for DD India.
And for more on this, we are joined by DW correspondent Thomas Sparrow from Berlin. Thomas, what reactions are you hearing from Europe on Trump's call with Vladimir Putin?
There's a lot of skepticism about the outcome of those talks, specifically about the prospect or the potential prospect that Vladimir Putin could be interested in having a sustainable solution for the war in Ukraine. That's something that you've heard from several European leaders, especially those who are on the eastern flank of NATO, so closest, let's say, to Russia geographically. At the same time, you're also hearing, especially from analysts or from experts that are interested in fostering the transatlantic relationship, so in other words, the relationship between Europe and the United States, that it is important that the US President Donald Trump actually made that step to try and engage in dialogue with the different parts that are party to the conflict in Ukraine, to the war in Ukraine. So they're saying that even though they may differ with Donald Trump when it comes to content and when it comes to style, some of them do see it as a positive sign that there are discussions underway, and now obviously those discussions have to be filled with content that benefits all different parties. So that's one sort of comment that you're seeing from here in Europe, but in general there's also criticism to the specific potential that Vladimir Putin could be interested in peace, especially also what you're seeing happening already in Ukraine.
Thomas, also, I mean, how is Europe planning to step up its efforts to help Ukraine?
Well, this is actually a very important element, because what you've heard from the Russian president is that one of the conditions that, in his view, is important to finding a solution to the war in Ukraine is for Western allies to stop delivering aid to Ukraine or even intelligence gathering to Ukraine. And that is something that from a European perspective is not acceptable. In fact, European leaders have stressed that they're continuing their political and military support to Ukraine, and there are different measures in place, both at a national level and at a European Union level, to increase that support to Ukraine. So here in Germany, there are several billion euros, around 4.5 billion euros, that are earmarked for Ukraine in this particular year, and other European countries have similar amounts also. So that's where you see particular conflict between the way Europe sees this and the way the Russian president sees this war in Ukraine.
Thomas, meanwhile, European countries like Germany are ramping up their defense spending. How's Germany, for instance, doing this?
By changing the constitution. In fact, it's a very significant, in fact, some are describing it as a historic move here in Germany, because the parliament only yesterday decided to change debt rules that prevented the government from borrowing a lot of money to spend on defense. So basically, the incoming government under Friedrich Merz will have, some are describing it as a blank check in order to borrow money from the markets and then spend it on defense. And we're talking here about defense in broad terms. So not only buying weapons, but also in civic defense here in the country, in IT systems, in developing intelligence agencies in the country. So a very broad understanding of defense. And this comes hand in hand with also around 500 billion euros that the country will be able to borrow in order to increase its infrastructure and improve its ailing infrastructure. So we're talking of a lot of money that Germany will be able to have in order to boost its defense spending and also increase its infrastructure. This is how Germany is dealing with this issue, although it's important to stress that there's still an important decision pending, namely whether the upper house of parliament, the Bundesrat, also approves these measures on Friday.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. All right, so that was Thomas Sparrow reporting from Berlin. We're slipping into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Tensions escalate once again in Gaza after massive overnight airstrikes. And protests outside Istanbul's police headquarters after opposition figure Imamoglu detained.
This week on Defence Dynamics, India and Bangladesh conduct a strategic naval patrol in the Bay of Bengal amid shifting regional alliances. Has Bongo Saga 2025 strengthened maritime security, or are diplomatic strains still at play? We decode this exercise and its significance. US launches military strikes on Yemen's Houthis. What does this mean for Middle East stability and global trade? India fortifies its high-altitude defences. How will the new vehicle-mounted infantry mortars transform border security? Plus, is the Five Eye Intelligence Alliance on the brink of collapse? A potential shake-up that could redefine global security. Tune in this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Tensions are escalating once again in Gaza after massive overnight airstrikes Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that this is only the beginning. The airstrikes are the largest since a truce was established in January. More on renewed tensions in West Asia in this report.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue military pressure until all hostages are released, and further warned that future negotiations with Hamas will take place only under fire.
Israel will fight, and Israel will win. We will bring our people home, and we will destroy Hamas. We will not relent until we achieve all these vital goals, and we will not rest until we give our country a future of peace, prosperity, and hope.
Netanyahu also urged Palestinians in Gaza to avoid any contact with Hamas and get out of harm's way. He put the blame squarely on Hamas for the present situation.
Hamas refused offer after offer to release our hostages. In the past 2 weeks, Israel did not initiate any military action in the hope that Hamas would change course. Well, that didn't happen.
The United States has also blamed Hamas for the resumption of hostilities, saying they bear total responsibility for the strikes.
The blame for the resumption of hostilities lies solely with Hamas. This brutal terrorist organization has steadfastly refused every proposal and deadline they've been presented over the past few weeks, including a bridge proposal to extend the ceasefire beyond Ramadan and Passover, to allow time to negotiate a framework for a permanent ceasefire. Hamas refused this offer.
While Hamas has warned that the Israeli action could endanger the remaining hostages, the UN has on the other hand pressed for the ceasefire to be respected and for the humanitarian aid to continue for Gaza.
I believe that the role of the UN is to do everything to convince the parties, first, for the ceasefire to be fully respected. Second, for humanitarian aid to have access to Gaza in an unimpeded way. And third, for the unconditional release of hostages. And we will not give up on these objectives.
Gulf nations, EU have expressed concern and called for the cessation of renewed hostilities, while the families of Israeli hostages pleaded with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to halt the violence, fearing for the fate of their loved ones. Aarti Rana's report for DD India.
And Hamas on Wednesday said that it remained open to negotiations while calling for pressure on Israel for implementing a truce. Though Hamas is open to talks on getting the ceasefire back on track, it says will not renegotiate the agreement that took effect on January 19. Israel and Hamas have disagreed over how to proceed with the ceasefire, with Israel wanting to extend stage 1 and the latter demanding to move to a new phase intended to bring the conflict to an end. Now, NASA astronauts Butch and Sunita Williams returned to Earth after 286 days stay in space. The return caps a protracted space mission that was fought with uncertainty and technical troubles. As more.
Back on Earth.
Smiles, thumbs ups and cheers. That sums up the mood after safe return of two stranded NASA astronauts, Butch and Sunny Williams, after their unexpected 286-day space sojourn. SpaceX Crew Dragon spaceship carrying Butch and Sunita Williams, alongside fellow American Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbunov, streaked through the atmosphere before deploying parachutes for a gentle splashdown off the Florida coast at 5:57 p.m. local time.
I want to congratulate the entire NASA Commercial Crew Program, the SpaceX team. You know, in many ways, if I step back to last year, this has been 9 months in the making, and I couldn't be prouder of our team's versatility, our team's ability to adapt and really build for the future of human spaceflight and looking at different ways to do business, taking advantage of one vehicle to launch a crew and then bring back the crew in a different vehicle.
Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore flew on a Boeing Starliner to the space station on June 5 last year and returned in SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft.
SpaceX has been an incredible partner for us. And it shows the benefits of the commercial public-private partnership that we have. So they just been a huge, great partner throughout all this. Crew 9, in addition to the spacewalks that many of you witnessed, they performed just about 150 experiments on board the International Space Station with over 900 hours of research.
The quartet left the International Space Station roughly 17 hours earlier after exchanging final farewells with remaining crew members. Wilmore and Williams' 286-day stay exceeds the usual 6-month ISS rotation and ranks 6th among US records for single mission duration. The world record remains with Russian cosmonaut Valery Polyakov, who spent 437 consecutive days aboard the Mir station, while NASA astronaut Frank Rubio broke the record for the longest single spaceflight by a US astronaut, spending 371 days in space. NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hey spent 355 days in space. NASA astronaut and Expedition 46 commander Scott Kelly spent a total of 340 days living in space, while Oleg Kononenko, a Russian cosmonaut, set a record for the longest cumulative time spent in space, accumulating 1,111 days across 5 missions. Peggy Whitson spent 675 days, Jeff Williams 534 days, Vande Hey spent 523 days in space and conducted 4 spacewalks. Throughout their careers, Williams has accumulated a total amount spent 608 days in space, while Wilmore has racked up 464 days in space. With 286 days stay in space, Indian origin astronaut Sunita Williams will go down in history for many firsts.
Nick and Butch each conducted 1 spacewalk, and Sunny conducted 2. That actually gave Sunny the record for most time on spacewalks by a woman, and puts her 4th overall in terms of time outside doing spacewalks.
Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore will undergo a 45-day rehabilitation program to readjust to gravity after their extended stint in microgravity. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the safe return of NASA astronauts. Sharing a picture with NASA astronaut Sunita Williams, PM Modi wrote, and I quote him here. Welcome back, Crew 9. The Earth missed you. Theirs has been a test of grit, courage and the boundless human spirit. Sunita Williams and the Crew 9 astronauts have once again shown us what perseverance truly means. Their unwavering determination in the face of the vast unknown will forever inspire millions. Space exploration is about pushing the limits of human potential, daring to dream and having the courage to turn those dreams into reality. Sunita Williams, a trailblazer and an icon, has exemplified this spirit throughout her career. We are incredibly proud of all those who worked tirelessly to ensure their safe return. They have demonstrated what happens when precision meets passion and technology meets tenacity. Unquote. An Indian Space Research Organization welcomes NASA astronauts, wishes to utilize NASA astronauts' expertise in space exploration. On X, ISRO wrote, welcome back Sunita Williams. Your safe return after an extended mission aboard the ISS is a remarkable achievement, a testament to NASA, SpaceX and the USA's commitment to space exploration. Your resilience and dedication continue to inspire space enthusiasts around the world. As Secretary DOS and Chairman ISRO, I, on behalf of my colleagues, extend a warm greetings to you and wish you a great day ahead. When Bharat, under the leadership of Honorable PM Modi ji, is working towards making India as a developed country, we wish to utilize your expertise in the space exploration. Unquote. Moving on, condemning the detention of the mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu, over a corruption probe, angry protesters gathered near police headquarters on Wednesday. Calling it a coup against democracy, over 100 protesters gathered chanting anti-government slogans. The mayor is termed as political rival of President Erdogan, and his arrest comes days before he was to be named the party's candidate for the 2028 presidential election. Meanwhile, his wife also condemned the detention in strong words, calling the charges, which includes corruption and aiding a terrorist group, laughable.
One can only laugh at such a thing. Accusations against Ekrem Imamoglu of links to a criminal and terrorist organization. Such a thing is, of course, impossible. It cannot be. Such a thing cannot be. It is only laughable. There is a lot of wrong information going around. We all follow social media, don't we? For 20 days, a handful of people have messed up social media. They are horrible. Horrible. It is completely a huge slander. Everything will come out in the open anyway.
Now, the 14th meeting of the experts working group of the ASEAN Defence Ministers Plus is going on in Delhi. India and Malaysia are co-chairing the meeting. Delegations from 10 ASEAN members and 8 dialogue partners are the participants. India is the co-chair for the EWJ on counter-terrorism for the first time. Today, India's Defence Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh delivered the keynote address and stressed on tackling the misuse of emerging technologies such as AI and drones by terrorists.
It is no secret that the Indo-Pacific region in particular confronts numerous traditional and non-traditional security threats, including terrorism, narco-terrorism, narcotics trade, cyber threats, and all that in the midst of proliferation of new and emerging technologies. Terrorism remains a dynamic and evolving challenge with threats increasingly transcending national borders. The use of advanced technology, cyber tools, unmanned systems, etc. by terrorist groups necessitates a cohesive, forward-looking and action-oriented approach.
Sports now. The Boxing Federation of India is in turmoil. BFI Secretary Hemant Kalita and Treasurer Digvijay Singh have been suspended over financial irregularities. Meanwhile, Kalita is allegedly blocking Assam boxers, including Olympian Lovelina Borgohain, from the women's nationals. Despite the chaos, BFI President Ajay Singh assures the event will proceed smoothly. The Boxing Federation of India is facing a major shake-up. BFI Secretary General Hemanta Kumar Kalita and Treasurer Digvijay Singh have been suspended following allegations of financial mismanagement. The move comes after a complaint from the Sports Authority of India.
We received an email from Sports Authority of India on the 3rd of January 2025 to conduct a full inquiry and present an investigation report to them. We have conducted this inquiry. We appointed Justice Sudhir Jain, retired judge of the Delhi High Court, to conduct this inquiry. He has conducted an exhaustive inquiry and report has been presented to us. We have submitted this report to the Sports Authority of India.
Meanwhile, the rift has deepened, with Kalita now suspended, allegedly blocking Assam boxers from competing in the women's nationals. Among them is Olympic medalist Lovelina Borgohain, who is also being stopped from participating.
Boxers work very, very hard to participate in nationals on behalf of their states and then participate in international championships on behalf of their country. It is their life's ambition to represent their state and their country in the sport that they have chosen. So as administrators, it is our job and our responsibility to ensure that we facilitate this. We make sure that they have every opportunity.
Despite the controversy, BFI President Ajay Singh has assured that the women's nationals will go ahead smoothly without any hindrance. Tapos Bhattacharya's report for DD India. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.